everyone, it's Melissa. I'm back after taking last week off because I've been really wanting to focus on this episode. And if you're listening to this, yes, this is the final episode of 2023, which I will be titling as Happy Hours 2023 Wrapped. Literally, it's just a chat between you and me. And once again, back to our humble beginnings in my bedroom. I mean, I'm still in my bedroom recording. What do you mean humble beginnings? I'm still in a humble beginning. But we're still here in my favorite sweater and my big mouth. It's how I perform my best. I'd love to just reminisce on Happy Hour's journey over the past year, and it certainly intertwines with my own personal journey, mentally and physically. So, and in previous interviews that I've been on, or when I've been talking about podcasts, and when I've been talking about the journey of Happy Hour, I've only provided a few glimpses or vignettes or snippets. But now that we have this sit down time and it's the end of the year, I just want to paint a fuller picture on Happy Hour's journey and some of the things that I haven't shared about that I would love to bring light to. So, okay, here we go. It's just really crazy that I somehow have still been sticking to this show. I mean, even back then, like, video podcasts weren't even a big deal when I launched my first ever episode, which was on May 30, 2021, 2 years ago, when I was just pursuing Happy Hour as a side quest. And that was also a great way for me to use my time in the summer right after I graduated college.
I've been listening to your podcast ever since you've messaged me. I just wanted to figure you out, and I'm a big fan of podcasts because that's how I learn. I retain things really well through sound, and you're really good. Like, I listen to a lot of different podcasts, and I'm surprised by how young you are, because your show is actually really, really well done.
Thank you so much. Wow, everyone has basically created a podcast during the pandemic, and my concept is really simple. Just a sit-down interview with creative people. But I'm glad you liked it. I'm really excited where this podcast goes. I'm just so honored that you're part of the show. I have always been a big fan of podcasts. I'm sure you guys already know. My first podcast love was and is, it'll always be NPR Fresh Air, which I listen to all the time on Spotify, but it's not on Spotify anymore, which makes me so sad. I think they moved to a subscription service. But host Terry Gross has always been a fledgling hosting inspiration for me. She has this incredible calm radio voice coupled with her sharp wit, something I really admired about her and all of the interviews that I would listen to her with all these celebrities, historians, authors, experts in science and math. But yeah, she's a cool gal. However, my first go at Happy Hour was quite short-lived. If you've been with me since literally the beginning, starting May of 2021, you probably have noticed that I stopped posting episodes in October of 2021, so only 5 months after my initial upload. I mean, my traditional 9-to-5 duties became the focus of my life, and to be honest, Happy Hour, it was just a side quest. It was just a side hobby, and at the time, I didn't write down a clear why. So it makes sense why this passion fizzled out over time. And that October of 2021, that was also around the time I got hired by Jubilee Media as a freelance director. And I thought I was set. I was like, okay, I got hired. I'm going to be brought on as full-time in the future. I'm so lucky that fairly recently after graduation, I'm hired by one of the most renowned, globally recognized media companies. And like, this is going to be my future. I'm just going to be making videos for Jubilee. I was like, okay, I'm going to eventually helm a very respected full-time role, producing, and I was hosting my very own pilot for their YouTube channel. I was like, God, this is the dream. However, God has a silly sense of humor. I was let go a few months later at very short notice, and I was told that it was my last day on my last day. So unfortunately, my show never made it onto the channel, I've never felt heartbreak before, from a romantic relationship, but it did feel like a terrible heartbreak. And my roommate, Steven, whom you all know so well by now, he'd never seen me cry, but he'd never seen me cry like that before. So that was a very difficult time, but luckily I was able to stand back on both feet very quickly. I started another position literally 2 weeks after I got let go, which was miraculous thinking about it. But I was hired as an associate producer at Condé Nast Entertainment, and I was there for a year, producing celebrity content, science and tech videos. However, in hindsight, it did feel more like a job to get by. And I think I was also desperate to work, to be able to earn income. And so I really latched on to the next opportunity, which was working at Condé Nast. And once again, God has a silly sense of humor, because exactly a year later, in February of this year, I was let go once again at the next job at Condé Nast due to their exploitation of contract workers. So I always joke about I was let go twice in a row. I hope it doesn't happen a third time. And at the beginning of this year, another rock that was thrown in my way was that I was officially diagnosed with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Cysts were discovered in my ovaries, leading to a whole host of hormonal imbalances and physical symptoms I had been feeling actually for the whole year prior. But being women's health is just so understudied. And at the time I was just so confused, and I was tired all the time. I started uncontrollably gaining weight, which was something that I didn't like to admit to my friends, but I was uncontrollably gaining a lot of weight in a short amount of time. I developed cystic acne. I had terrible gassiness. I became pre-diabetic, and I was just a secretly sad, unrecognizable person. Most of my friends see me as a very joyful person, and I will always be like that. But I was also the flip side. When I was by myself in my room, I'd look at myself in the mirror. I would completely not recognize who I was looking at. I would just cry myself to sleep a lot, being very lost and hopeless and very frustrated, and thinking about the times I was let go from my 2 jobs, now developing a chronic condition, me being in my 20s. Like, what is going on? There was so much unjust in my life. And it was just really clouded my mind in a very negative way. This is quite a lot to consider at just the beginning of the year. And starting the year without job security and now living with a chronic condition, it really weighed on me. But I always had to remind myself that I cannot be determined or defined by my circumstances. And I really try my best to continually remind myself that. However, job searching was incredibly tough. And after consistent job rejections, right after I was let go, I decided to look for more jobs, and I just kept getting rejection after rejection after rejection, many of which were actually podcast companies, because I think I started to get a bit of direction of what I started to like. And at the beginning of this May, the whole story of how the podcast came to be is that one day I finished a workout and suddenly I was rummaging through my storage items. I fished out my microphone and I just suddenly started recording, literally in the same space. And I announced to my 1,000 Instagram followers at the time on my personal account that I was going to bring hAAPI Hour back. I never thought that I would circle back to this passion project. I think I'm just gonna do this again. If you've been an OG listener, I hope you come back. And if you're a new listener, welcome to hAAPI Hour. Because at the time, frankly, I had nothing much to do. And I was like, okay, while I'm still searching for jobs, let me just put out some more content. And also at the same time, I was like, a lot of these podcast companies, they don't want to work with me, but I can make my own show. I know how to film. I know how to edit, host, write, produce. And of course I was disappointed when a media company would not choose to move forward with me, but I really knew in my heart that I know how to make something good. Maybe there's a bit of ego involved, for sure, but I went to school for this and I was trained to be a storyteller. I have a hosting background. I know I can do this. And even though my life felt physically, financially, and mentally compromised, there was still a moment of stillness, interestingly enough, where I was finally able to ask myself, well, Melissa, what do you like to do? And that's when I wrote a creative Bible for hAAPI Hour, because as you guys remember, the first time I did not have a clear why, but this time I gave myself a second chance and I thought, okay, I gotta do this right. So I think now it's because I have a happy hour Bible, a happy hour North Star. I'm able to push myself to get the job done and in turn reach new audiences, guests, and episodes consistently. And sometimes I have to take a week off because this is completely, I run this ship myself. But I think it's because I have things written down. I have a clear why that I'm able to drive myself more in the direction I want happy hour to go. So in less than a month, with my happy hour Bible fleshed out, I was able to collaborate with my talented friends to create a new logo. It was time to rebrand. It's a renaissance for happy hour. So a few shout outs. I can't thank my friend Anna enough for perfectly capturing the new style I want for the show, which is just colorful, whimsical, casual, fun, not that polished anymore. I don't want to sound or feel too polished. And it just is more relatable to you guys. And also to my friend Mitch for animating the logo so perfectly. And to Steven for lending me his creative brain during the logo development process. To Jessica and Margaret for being my very beginning believers of the show. And consistently requesting me to bring back the show even when I was in my 2-year hiatus and I was so sure that I was not going to bring the podcast back. It was those two gals who were like, you should bring the podcast back. So I officially launched my comeback episode in May, literally in less than a month, and brought on my good friend and future pop star, Chitra Dasapa.
I will never forget this moment ever. I was like walking with my roller backpack from LL Bean that was purple with dinosaurs and it had my name embroidered on it. And I literally in my head was like, I'm going to be a pop star. Oh, I guess I should mention this now. My parents like don't really know that I sing.
What?
Yeah.
What? Wait. It's my. I was also able to bring Steven back onto the show, and we did this ridiculous episode where, for the first time, I had no plan for the episode, and of course, our conversation descended into pure chaos. You said that I'm a Mrs. something something just now.
You're Mrs. Thesaurus.
You say that I'm a Mrs.
Oh my god. We both literally cannot talk anymore. I swear we're not like drunk or anything.
Sometimes I actually get a little concerned. I'm like, I never used to tongue twist my words in the past, and now I do. But maybe my brain is working so fast right now that my tongue can't even catch up.
I think that's what's happening.
I was also able to meet and interview model and mental health educator Gabby Masuda for the first time in person. And that episode was such a rich conversation covering marriage at a young age, divorce, coming out as queer, balancing mental health and content creation. And I really can't thank Gabby enough for her enthusiastic support, for those who listened and sent me their messages, and to really Gabby believing in me that I was able to construct an episode that was not two-dimensional.
Growing up in church spaces, getting married is like kind of the ideal, like getting married and then having kids, like that's kind of what is laid out for women in the church. And so I feel like part of me felt like I had to like fulfill that for my family in a way.
We were able to cover so much breadth in that conversation, and she really gave me the opportunity to do that by having me look into her life a bit more and to ask harder questions. And the vulnerability that she provided really helped all of us. It helped the show grow. It really helped me become a better interviewer, a better podcaster. It brought in new audiences. So really, I thank her so much. There was also another shout out that I would like to give. As you guys know, there is an episode that made quite a big splash over the summer. I believe it's also the reason why many of you are here. And of course, that is the interview where I interviewed the internet's most adored LA-based ceramicist, Danny Durick.
I was just like a nerdy kid, tried a lot of sports, was never good. Had a late growth spurt.
Yo, you had a late growth spurt? You're like so tall now. When did you start growing?
Probably when I was like 16.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe 17 even.
Yeah. So how tall were you before then?
I was probably like 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know.
I remember I had less than 200 happy hour Instagram followers when I reached out to Danny, and I was like, hi, do you want to come on my show? Which he replied the same day, I'm down, love the vibes. LOL. A month later, I was interviewing him in his 200 square feet garage studio, swatting flies in the July heat. And although this is my bad. I brought matcha with whole milk and my new camera kept running out of battery.
Oh no, did we lose it?
No, battery. I need to charge it for everything.
Do your thing.
Okay. I charged it yesterday now.
This is the Happy Hour podcast with Daniel.
Just keep doing your thing.
We're in my studio in Echo Park. Melissa brought me matcha with whole milk, which is really bold.
Danny gave me his entire morning, and I am so grateful for his time. That episode trailer outperformed my expectations, and that's how so many of you guys found me. And I mean, even the episode that came after, the one where I interview my very funny high school friend Brendan, that episode outperformed as well. And it really shocked both Brendan and myself how much attention that trailer and episode was getting online, and despite it being a conversation between two nobodies.
I actually also became a street performer. Yeah, I was busking. Why are you laughing?
Did people request?
I just was like, so has anybody experienced heartbreak recently? And then it'd be quiet. And then so I'd be like, oh, well, I did. So this song's called The One That Got Away by Katy Perry.
Within that short amount of time, Happy Hour went from less than 200 Instagram followers to over 2,000. And now I'm very happy to report that we have over 3,000 lovely Instagram followers. I'd be working at my part-time job, and whenever I check my phone, there'd be so many notifications from these random people who had seen these trailers floating around in their Explore pages. And yes, to fill in some context, I did take up a part-time job starting in the summer because with, the job searching was very difficult. I needed to be real with myself, and I needed to be financially real with myself. So I made a plan that I would work part-time at a boutique fitness studio. I would continue building my freelance editing business. In addition to that, I was also dedicated to pumping out Happy Hour episodes weekly. Well, I am proud to say that I sent in my letter of resignation after only 3 months because I got into a car accident. I thought maybe I was going to experience this fantastical hero's journey. I really thought I could juggle all of these roles as editor, Happy Hour creator, fitness studio cleaner until some amazing plot twist happened. However, it wasn't the plot twist I was hoping for, and that was life's clear intervention that that's just not how it's gonna go. LOL. My schedule, looking back, was quite sickening. I'd be doing shift work at either 5 in the morning, meaning I would have to leave the house almost an hour before, which is at 4 a.m., or I would clock in at 3 p.m. for an afternoon shift, and I would work past 9 p.m. In addition to those shifts, I would work around them and fit in editing or happy hour work, which all felt like full-time jobs, and it truly was physically and mentally deteriorating. I mean, there were instances where I pulled all-nighters editing client videos after an entire day of working on happy hour and shift work. I've always considered myself to be an intensely driven person, but it was in those moments that I learned that I really needed to knock down my pride of wanting to be seen as a strong, self-reliant person, which I think is an identity that I built up over time and was very, very hesitant to change. And with hosting Happy Hour too, I've also learned that, as people, we're drawn to people who are authentically vulnerable. And that's a side of me that's quite new. It's been very healing for me, and I think that's probably why many of you choose to stay for the show and for me, hopefully. So, after that accident, I knew I had to quit my part-time job, and I'm going to be honest, I am still trying to figure out what's next, still trying to apply to jobs, still going through the motions of these repetitive interview rounds, and still working to grow my editing business in the meantime, and still trying my best to diligently pump out well-produced happy hour episodes. The journey of creating this show has been incredibly laborious, but the biggest takeaway I've had from this journey was becoming friends with my guests. When I bring on a guest, I obviously admire them enough to a level where I would want to reach out to them, but fostering genuine friendships with my guests and being invited into their circles, it's been so rewarding. I remember having girl lunch with our star model and also fellow podcaster Ariel Toole about a month ago. I brought Korean food over to her place, and then we had lunch and chatted and caught up. I invited our other podcaster guest, Hannah Lee, to a women's wellness event that I was attending. I spent this Thanksgiving with Danny and his close friends, and I was recently invited to this amazing fancy dinner party hosted by our favorite florist, Puni Petals. My community in Los Angeles alone has been enriched tenfold thanks to the kind folks who said yes to my initial DM. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of them for inviting me into their lives. And of course, the show would not be possible without your support. I read all of your messages, and it's truly an immense pleasure reading something sweet from someone whom I've personally never met. I mean, I can say, for example, during Thanksgiving, because usually I stay here for Thanksgiving, I don't go home because it's too far. But there was this one follower who messaged me and was like, hey, I live in Burbank, so also in Los Angeles. And she says that I'm hosting Thanksgiving at our place. My family's going to be there, close friends. I'd like to invite you to come. And I was like, what? That's so sweet. I ended up going to Danny's because I already had plans. But I was like, wow, thank you so much for writing that message. It was so cute. And I screenshot all of them because I never want to forget. This is still an indie podcast. And although I still don't have any sponsors, or maybe you or someone you know can change that, you are all a big reason why I come back to the show. Every single comment, share, and review helps this show so much. And I thank you if you've already done that. And if you haven't done so yet, it would mean so much if you just took that 1 minute of your time to subscribe or follow wherever you listen, on YouTube, on Spotify, or Apple, and to leave a review, guys. I love the messages, but if you could take that extra step and leave that same message onto Apple Podcasts and to leave a star review on Spotify or leave a comment on YouTube, that would be so, so, so helpful for the show, and that's truly going to propel the show forward. I'm so proud of the collective progress that we all made together on hAAPI Hour. It really does take a village. And although all the trials and lessons I went through this past year alone has been quite challenging, those roadblocks have helped me realize what's truly important, which is creating something that makes me happy. And that is exactly the show that you're listening to right now. So I'm going to close off this episode and close off the year by saying a big thank you to you and my guests for believing in me. I already have so many amazing episodes already slated for next year or planned for next year. So stick around for more hAAPI Hours. And to just offer you a teaser, I will see you guys in a new year in Taiwan. Bye!